From secret bathrooms with strict photo bans to hippies storming Tom Sawyer Island with a Viet Cong flag, Disneyland's rulebook reads stranger than fiction. You might think the happiest place on earth is all magic and pixie dust, but beneath the surface lies a bizarre world of forbidden loose ice, banned Heelys, monthly ash scattering incidents, and dress codes that once ejected Bruce Springsteen for wearing a bandana. Even presidents have been kicked out. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Disneyland rules. Fact 1. Adults can't wear costumes, with good reason. If you're over 14 years old and planning to dress up as your favorite Disney character for a visit to Disneyland, you might want to reconsider that plan. Disney parks have a strict policy that prohibits adults from wearing costumes or clothing that could be viewed as representative of an actual Disney character. And this isn't just some arbitrary rule designed to spoil your fun. The reason behind this ban is actually pretty thoughtful when you think about it. When young children visit Disneyland, they genuinely believe they're meeting the real Cinderella, the actual Elsa, or the one and only Mickey Mouse when they interact with the official Disney cast members who portray these beloved characters. These trained performers are carefully selected and coached to maintain what Disney calls character integrity, ensuring that every child's experience feels authentic and magical. Now imagine if a random adult guest showed up wearing an incredibly accurate Belle costume or a perfect Peter Pan outfit. Young children wouldn't be able to tell the difference between this stranger and the real Disney performer they're waiting in line to meet. Kids might approach this unknown person expecting hugs, autographs, and photos, creating a safety concern for both the children and the guest in costume. It could also ruin the magic when the character doesn't know the right things to say or behave the way they expect their hero to act. This policy became especially clear in early 2025 when a mother and her 2 daughters were denied entry to a Disney on Ice show because the mother had dressed as Anna from Frozen. She had to remove her ginger wig and wear her partner's jacket to cover her costume before being allowed inside. The staff explained politely that her outfit could confuse children who might mistake her for a real Disney princess. Disney does offer alternatives for adults who still want to show their Disney pride. The practice called Disney bounding allows guests to wear everyday clothing in color combinations and styles that reference their favorite characters without crossing into full costume territory. For example, you could wear a red top with a yellow skirt to channel Winnie the Pooh, or a blue dress with a yellow cardigan to suggest Belle. There's even a book called Disney Bound, Dress Disney and Make It Fashion that helps fans put together character-inspired outfits that follow park rules. And during special events like Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween Party and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, adults are allowed to wear costumes with specific guidelines in place. Fact 2. The 1970 Yippie invasion closed. Disneyland early. On August 6, 1970, Disneyland experienced one of the strangest days in its history when about 300 anti-war protesters, calling themselves Yippies, descended on the park with plans to completely take it over. The Youth International Party, founded by activists Jerry Rubin and Abby Hoffman in 1967, chose this date specifically because it marked the 25th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, and they wanted to protest America's involvement in the Vietnam War. The group distributed flyers ahead of time featuring Mickey Mouse holding a rifle, advertising an event schedule that included a Black Panther breakfast at Aunt Jemima's Pancake House at 9 in the morning, liberating Minnie Mouse at noon, barbecuing Porky Pig for lunch, and taking over Tom Sawyer Island in the late afternoon for what they called a smoke-in and festival. While Disney and local police prepared for thousands of protesters based on the publicity, only around 300 actually showed up, paying full admission and entering through the turnstiles like regular guests. For most of the day, the Yippies simply wandered around smoking marijuana, chanting slogans like "LSD has a hold on me," and climbing on Captain Hook's pirate ship. Around 5 in the afternoon, several raft loads of protesters made it to Tom Sawyer Island, where they took over Fort Wilderness, lowered the American flag, and replaced it with a Viet Cong flag while chanting "Free Charlie Manson" and "Legalize marijuana." Security stopped sending rafts to the island to contain them there, but when the group returned to the mainland and marched toward the Bank of America building on Main Street, things escalated quickly. Riot police from 5 different Orange County towns who had been hiding backstage in full gear all day finally moved in. A sheriff's helicopter hovered over Main Street with a bullhorn ordering everyone to evacuate immediately. The park closed around 6:30 in the evening, about 5 hours early, sending 30,000 regular guests home. This marked only the second time in Disneyland's history that the park had an unplanned early closure, the first being the day President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. Fact 3. Disneyland banned all hippies in 1967. In 1967, the same year the Pirates of the Caribbean ride made its debut, Disneyland park officials made a decision that seems almost unbelievable by today's standards. They announced a blanket ban on all hippies from entering the park, effectively turning away anyone whose appearance suggested they were part of the counterculture movement sweeping across America. A park spokesperson explained the policy to the Associated Press in terms that now sound shocking, saying that if they allowed people with weird outfits into the park, it might cause other patrons to make derogatory remarks, and that could lead to trouble. So rather than deal with potential confrontations, Disney chose to solve the problem by simply not letting hippies inside at all. This wasn't just an informal policy whispered among gate attendants. It was an official stance that reflected the conservative values of both Disneyland and Orange County during the height of the Vietnam War era. The park essentially became a hippie-free zone, with security staff tasked with identifying and turning away anyone who fit the profile based on their clothing, hairstyle, or general appearance. The policy wasn't subtle, and it wasn't apologetic. Disneyland was drawing a clear line about who was welcome in their vision of family-friendly entertainment. But the story doesn't end in 1967. After the infamous Yippie invasion of 1970, when anti-war protesters stormed Tom Sawyer Island and forced the park to close early, Disneyland doubled down on its appearance-based restrictions. The park then expanded its ban to include what they called long-haired youths, making the dress code even more restrictive. Males were forbidden from sporting long hair or beards, and tie-dyed or slogan-bearing t-shirts on either gender could get you turned away at the gate. It took years for these policies to gradually relax as cultural norms shifted. But for a period in the late 60s and early 70s, Disneyland was actively policing not just behavior, but the very image of the American counterculture movement. Fact 4. Scattering ashes happens monthly. Code: HEPA cleanup. When Disney custodians hear the code HEPA cleanup over their radios, they know exactly what it means, and it's not your typical spill. This special code signals that someone has scattered human ashes somewhere in the park, and it happens far more often than you might think. According to current and former custodial staff who spoke to the Wall Street Journal, identifying and vacuuming up cremated remains has become what they call a signature and secret part of working at the happiest place on Earth, with incidents occurring on a monthly basis. The Haunted Mansion is by far the most popular location for this unauthorized activity, which makes sense given its spooky theme and connection to the afterlife. One Disneyland custodian told reporters that the Haunted Mansion probably has so much human ashes in it that it's not even funny. But the practice isn't limited to just one attraction. Pirates of the Caribbean is another frequent target, with police even responding in 2007 after witnesses saw a guest sprinkling an unidentified substance into the water during the ride. The rise of the Resistance attraction in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge has also been hit, with photos showing gray, ashy substance scattered across the ride floor and tracked everywhere by the ride vehicles. Families who have done this told the Wall Street Journal that sneaking ashes into the park is surprisingly easy. They simply put the cremated remains into prescription pill bottles, makeup compacts, or Ziploc bags hidden at the bottom of purses. Once inside, they wait for the right moment to scatter them at a location their loved one cherished. The practice became such a concern after 9/11 that any powdery substance now raises fears it could be something far more dangerous than human remains. When ashes are discovered, the attraction must be immediately shut down and evacuated, while custodial staff perform a specialized cleanup using vacuums equipped with HEPA filters designed to capture the extremely fine particles. These closures can last several hours, frustrating thousands of guests waiting in line who have no idea why their favorite ride suddenly stopped operating. The cleanup is treated as a biohazard situation, requiring special equipment and protocols that go far beyond a standard cleaning. Fact 5. Your loved one's ashes end up in the trash. If you're planning to scatter a loved one's ashes at Disneyland as a final tribute, you should know the harsh reality of what actually happens to those remains. Despite the sentimental intentions behind this act, every single time human ashes are discovered at the park, they get vacuumed up with special equipment and thrown straight into the garbage. That's right, the trash. Your loved one doesn't become part of the haunted mansion forever or get to rest peacefully alongside the happy haunts. Instead, their remains end up in a dumpster mixed with mouse droppings and other park debris. When custodial staff spot human ashes anywhere in the park, they immediately shut down the attraction and call for what's known as a HEPA cleanup. HEPA stands for High Efficiency Particulate Air, which is the type of special filter required to safely vacuum up the fine particles of cremated remains. This isn't a quick 5-minute job either. The entire attraction has to remain closed for hours while cast members in protective equipment thoroughly clean every surface where the ashes landed. As one former Disneyland custodian bluntly explained on social media, aside from the selfishness of the act, your loved one's ashes are going to be vacuumed up into a bucket with mouse droppings and other detritus and thrown in the garbage. The cleaning process is extensive because human remains are classified as a biohazard, requiring specialized equipment and procedures that regular park cleaning doesn't involve. If ashes are scattered on a ride like Rise of the Resistance or Haunted Mansion, the ride vehicles tracking through the remains spread them across a much larger area, making the cleanup even more complicated and time-consuming. Meanwhile, thousands of frustrated guests who were waiting in line for that attraction are turned away, and cast members who have to perform this grim task have their entire day ruined by the inconsiderate act. The irony is unavoidable. In trying to give someone a magical final resting place, family members actually ensure their loved one ends up in the most undignified location possible while disrupting the experience for everyone else at the park. Fact 6. Rebel Wilson got a 30-day scheduled ban. When most people get banned from Disneyland, they're escorted out immediately and told not to come back for a specific period of time. But when you're a celebrity like actress Rebel Wilson, apparently even your punishment gets the VIP treatment. In March of 2023, Wilson appeared on The Daily Show and revealed a story that perfectly captures the unusual way Disney handles rule breakers who happen to be famous. Wilson explained that she had been officially banned from Disneyland for 30 days because she took a photo inside a secret bathroom at the park, which is illegal according to Disney's rules. While she didn't specify exactly where this forbidden bathroom was located, Disney fans were quick to figure out that she was almost certainly talking about Club 33, the ultra-exclusive members-only dining club hidden above the Pirates of the Caribbean ride in New Orleans Square. Club 33 has some of the strictest photography rules in the entire park. While members are generally allowed to take pictures inside the club itself, there's one major exception. Absolutely no photos are permitted in the bathrooms, and you're also not allowed to photograph other guests without their permission. But here's where the story gets really weird. When Disney discovered Wilson's bathroom selfie violation, they didn't just slap her with an immediate ban. Instead, according to Wilson, they actually called her up and asked a very considerate question. She told host Hassan Minhaj that Disney said, "Rebel, what 30 days did you not want to come to Disneyland because you'll be filming a movie or something?" They were essentially asking her to choose which month would be most convenient for her banishment. Wilson picked June, presumably because she knew she'd be busy with work during that time anyway. As Minhaj pointed out during the interview, this kind of scheduling accommodation is how you know you're a celebrity. The comedian joked that Disneyland has Met Gala rules, where they'll punish you for breaking regulations, but they'll check your Google Calendar first to find a time that works best. Despite the ban, Wilson clearly holds no grudge against Disney. She's a self-proclaimed Disney adult and even got engaged to her partner, Ramona Agruma, at Disneyland just a few months before the bathroom selfie incident. Fact 7. President Obama was kicked out for smoking. Even former President Barack Obama isn't immune to Disneyland's strict rules. During a campaign rally in Anaheim, California in 2018, Obama shared a surprising confession with the crowd, recounting the time he was actually kicked out of the happiest place on earth as a young college student. The incident happened in the early 1980s when Obama was attending Occidental College in Los Angeles. He and a group of friends decided to visit Disneyland for a cool and the gang concert at the park, and like many rebellious teenagers, they made a poor decision that would get them in serious trouble. Obama admitted that he and his friends were smoking cigarettes while riding the Skyway, which was Disneyland's gondola attraction that transported guests high above the park between Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. When he first told this story at the rally, the crowd erupted in applause, probably assuming he meant something other than tobacco. Obama quickly clarified the situation, saying, "These were cigarettes, people," and adding, "Terrible thing. But I'm a teenager. I'm rebellious." Even back in the early 80s, when smoking was still allowed in many areas of Disneyland, it was never permitted on rides or attractions for obvious safety reasons. As Obama and his friends stepped off the gondola at the end of their ride, they were immediately confronted by what he described as two very large Disneyland police officers. The security guards politely but firmly said, "Sir, can you come with us?" and proceeded to escort the future president and his friends completely out of the park. Obama recalled the moment with a laugh, telling the crowd, "This is a true story, everybody. I was booted from the Magic Kingdom." Interestingly, despite being ejected that day, the Disneyland security officers told Obama and his friends they were welcome to return to the park anytime, as long as they followed the rules. Disney CEO Bob Iger even tweeted about the incident years later, confirming that Obama can always come back as long as he doesn't smoke. The former president has since returned to Disney parks multiple times, including delivering a presidential address on tourism from the steps in front of Cinderella Castle at Walt Disney World, though presumably with a much larger Secret Service detail than he had as a college student. Fact 8. Loose ice is banned, but sealed ice is fine. If you've ever packed a cooler for a day at Disneyland, you might be surprised to learn that you can't just fill it with loose ice cubes from your hotel ice machine anymore. Since 2019, Disney has enforced a strict rule against bringing loose ice or dry ice into any of their theme parks, and the reasons behind this ban are more practical than you might think. The rule change went into effect on March 28, 2019, and it applies to all Disney parks, including Disneyland in California and Walt Disney World in Florida. Disney explained that the policy was implemented to improve guest flow, ease congestion, and streamline the bag check and entry processes at security checkpoints. The main issue with loose ice is that it creates serious problems for security screening. When security personnel need to inspect the contents of your cooler, loose ice cubes obscure their view of what's actually inside, making it impossible to properly check for prohibited items without digging through melting ice. Some guests had figured out that they could hide banned items like alcohol underneath piles of loose ice, knowing that security would have difficulty spotting them. Beyond the security concerns, loose ice also creates slip and fall hazards throughout the park. When guests open their coolers to grab a drink or snack, ice cubes inevitably fall out onto the pavement, creating slippery surfaces in high traffic areas where thousands of people are walking every day. Disney was concerned about the liability and safety risks this posed to all their guests. However, the rule isn't a complete ban on keeping your items cold. Disney still allows guests to bring coolers into the parks as long as they're smaller than 24 inches long by 15 inches wide by 18 inches high. You just need to use reusable ice packs instead of loose ice cubes, or you can put your ice in sealed plastic bags like Ziploc bags. If you forget to bring ice packs, Disney offers complimentary cups of ice at any quick-service restaurant location inside the parks, which you can then place into your cooler. Most hotel rooms at Disney resorts have small mini fridges, though they typically don't have freezers cold enough to freeze ice packs, which is why many guests had relied on hotel ice machines for their loose ice in the first place. Fact 9. Heelys are classified as recreational devices. If you thought you could glide through Disneyland on a pair of Heelys to make those long walks between attractions a little easier, think again. Disney has officially banned shoes with built-in wheels, classifying them in the same category as skateboards, scooters, and inline skates under their prohibited recreational devices policy. This means that Heelys, along with any other brand of wheeled footwear, are not allowed anywhere on Disney property, including the theme parks, water parks, and even the resort hotels. The ban isn't just a suggestion that cast members might overlook if you're being careful. Disney security and cast members are specifically trained to spot guests wearing Heelys, and they have the authority to stop you immediately and ask you to remove the wheels or change your shoes entirely. If you can't comply, you might be denied entry to the park or asked to take them back to your car or hotel room, which can easily eat into your park time by an hour or more. Some guests have reported being stopped at the security checkpoint before even making it through the turnstiles, while others have been approached by cast members after already entering the park. The reasoning behind this strict enforcement comes down to safety concerns. Disneyland's walkways are constantly packed with families, strollers, elderly visitors, and children darting in unpredictable directions. Adding wheeled shoes into this chaotic mix creates a recipe for collisions and injuries. The parks also feature uneven pavement, brick textures, curbs, and wet surfaces from water rides and fountains, all of which make wheeled shoes particularly dangerous. One sudden stop or unexpected obstacle could send someone tumbling into a crowd of guests. Disney takes this rule so seriously that even if your Heelys have removable wheels and you're wearing them as regular sneakers, you might still be stopped by security if they notice the brand name on the side or see the wheel slots. The safest approach is to leave them at home entirely and save yourself the hassle of explaining to a cast member why you should be the exception to the rule. Fact 10. Club 33. Bathroom photos are strictly forbidden. If you've ever heard whispers about Disneyland's most exclusive secret, Club 33 is it. This ultra-private dining club sits tucked away in New Orleans Square, right above the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and membership doesn't come cheap. The initial fee runs around $25,000, with annual dues reaching $15,000, and there's a waiting list that can stretch for years. Members get access to areas of the park that regular guests never see, including elegant dining rooms, exclusive lounges, and yes, even fancy bathrooms that most people will never set foot in. Now, Club 33 does allow photography inside the club itself. Members and their guests can take pictures of the beautiful decor, the gourmet food, and the special moments they share in this legendary location. But there's one place where cameras are absolutely forbidden, and that's the bathroom. This might seem like an odd rule to enforce so strictly, but Club 33 takes it seriously enough that breaking it can cost you your membership privileges. Actress Rebel Wilson found this out the hard way when she took a selfie in one of Club 33's bathrooms. Wilson, who's a massive Disney fan and actually got engaged at Disneyland, appeared on The Daily Show in March of 2023 and revealed the whole story. She told host Hassan Minhaj that she took a photo in what she called a secret bathroom inside Disneyland, which is illegal at Disneyland, and she got officially banned for 30 days as punishment. But here's where it gets interesting. Disney didn't just slap her with a ban and walk away. According to Wilson, they called her up and asked which 30 days would be most convenient for her to stay away from the park, presumably because they knew she visited frequently and wanted to work around her filming schedule. She told them June would work fine. It's a surprisingly polite way to handle a ban, showing that even when Disney enforces its rules, they try to do it with a touch of that famous Disney customer service. The incident shows that at Club 33, even the bathrooms have rules, and not even celebrity status will get you out of following them. Fact 11. Bruce Springsteen was denied entry for a bandana. In the early 1980s, rock legend Bruce Springsteen and his E Street Band guitarist Steven Van Zandt decided to take a relaxing day off at Disneyland, but their visit ended before it even began, thanks to a single piece of fabric. The two musicians purchased their tickets and approached the entrance turnstiles, excited to experience the Magic Kingdom, but they were stopped by security for wearing bandanas on their heads. According to Springsteen's autobiography, Born to Run, Van Zandt entered through the turnstiles first, giggling excitedly like a kid, and made it about 30 feet inside the park before being pulled aside by Disney staff. The security guards told him that in order to remain in the park, he would need to remove his bandana immediately. The reason given was that Disneyland didn't want him to be misidentified as a gang member, specifically a Blood or a Crip, and potentially fall victim to a drive-by shooting while riding Space Mountain. Yes, that was actually their explanation. Neither Springsteen nor Van Zandt were willing to comply with this dress code requirement, seeing it as an absurd overreach of authority. Rather than remove their bandanas, they refused and were promptly escorted out of the park. As they left, Springsteen reportedly yelled, "We're out of here. Screw you, fascist mouse. We're going to Knott's Berry Farm." The incident highlighted just how strict Disneyland's dress code policies were during that era, when the park was still reeling from the hippie and yippie invasions of the late 1960s and early 1970s. At the time, Disneyland had implemented rigid appearance standards not just for cast members, but for guests as well, banning long hair, beards, and apparently any clothing items that might be associated with counterculture movements or gang affiliation. For two of rock and roll's biggest stars, being denied entry over a simple bandana was both humiliating and infuriating. But it demonstrated that Disney's rules applied to everyone equally, regardless of fame or status. Fact 12. You can't bring pool noodles or pogo sticks. When most people think about what's banned from Disneyland, weapons and illegal substances come to mind. But the park's prohibited items list includes some surprisingly random objects that make you wonder what exactly happened to get them banned in the first place. Among the strangest items you absolutely cannot bring into Disneyland are pool noodles, pogo sticks, and musical instruments, creating a list so oddly specific that it suggests at some point in the park's history, someone actually tried bringing all three. Pool noodles are technically only officially banned at Walt Disney World's water parks, where non-Coast Guard approved flotation devices aren't allowed, but security at parks like Magic Kingdom would likely turn you away if you showed up with one tucked under your arm. The ban makes sense at water parks for safety reasons, but it's still amusing to imagine someone thinking they needed to bring a pool noodle to a theme park in the first place. Musical instruments are completely prohibited across all Disney parks, so if you were planning to start a spontaneous Lion King sing-along while waiting in line for a ride, you'll have to do it without any instrumental accompaniment. This means guitars, violins, drums, and any other instruments stay at home or in your hotel room. Pogo sticks fall under the broader category of recreational devices that Disney bans, which also includes skateboards, scooters, inline skates, and shoes with built-in wheels. The park groups these together because they all present similar safety hazards in crowded environments filled with families, strollers, and people looking up at attractions instead of watching where they're going. Other oddly specific banned items include folding chairs, which would actually be quite convenient for waiting in long lines or saving spots for parades. But Disney doesn't allow them anywhere in the theme parks or even in the downtown Disney district. The park also bans horns, whistles, large megaphones, and other artificial noisemakers, which most guests appreciate since nobody wants to hear an air horn blasting during a Disney parade. While Disney states they reserve the right to prohibit any item they determine may be harmful or disruptive, the fact that they specifically list pool noodles, pogo sticks, and musical instruments suggests these weren't just theoretical concerns, but actual problems the park has encountered over its nearly 70 years of operation. Fact 13. Lying about disability access means permanent ban. Disney takes fraudulent use of its Disability Access Service program extremely seriously, and the consequences are far more severe than most people realize. If you're caught lying on a DAS application to skip the lines, you won't just get kicked out for the day. You'll face a permanent ban from every single Disney park in the world, and any tickets, annual passes, or Magic Key memberships you've already purchased will be immediately forfeited without any refund whatsoever. The Disability Access Service was created to help guests with legitimate disabilities enjoy the parks by providing alternative accommodation options that don't require waiting in traditional standby lines. But as the program became better known, some people started abusing it by falsely claiming disabilities they didn't have, essentially using it as a cheat code to cut all the queues. Disney noticed this pattern and decided to crack down hard. According to Disney's official policy, if it's determined that any statement you made during the DAS application process was untrue, you'll be permanently barred from entering both the Walt Disney World Resort in Florida and the Disneyland Resort in California. This isn't a temporary suspension or a warning, it's a lifetime ban, and it gets worse. All your previously purchased annual passes, Magic Key passes, regular tickets, and any other park products or services are forfeited immediately with zero chance of getting your money back. Some law firms have even started advertising their expertise in helping people appeal these bans through Disney's internal security department. But the appeals process can take months, and there's no guarantee of success. The message from Disney is crystal clear. Don't even think about gaming the disability access system. The company has made it one of the few offenses that carries an automatic permanent ban, putting it in the same category as serious safety violations or criminal behavior. For a company that prides itself on being the happiest place on earth, this is one rule where they show absolutely no mercy. Fact 14. Stopping in walkways is an actual written rule. If you've ever been to Disneyland and felt frustrated by people suddenly stopping right in front of you to check their phones or debate which ride to visit next, you're not alone. What most guests don't realize is that blocking walkways is actually against Disneyland's official rules, not just an unspoken courtesy issue. The park's property regulations explicitly state that guests must refrain from obstructing sidewalks, entrances, driveways, patios, vestibules, stairways, corridors, halls, or landings. It's written right there in the fine print that everyone agrees to when they enter the park. Despite being an actual enforceable rule, stopping in the middle of walkways has become the most frequently violated regulation at Disneyland, and it drives regular visitors absolutely crazy. The problem has gotten so bad that when first-time visitors ask online forums for advice about unspoken rules they need to know, the overwhelming response is always the same. Don't abruptly stop on walkways, don't turn around without looking, and don't block doorways or ride exits. One frustrated guest wrote on social media that it's especially maddening during the holiday season when the park is packed, saying, "I do not mind the park being crowded. Everyone deserves happiness for the holidays, but please don't be the person that stops in the middle of the road in a crowded walkway and begins to discuss your next plans." The rule exists for good reason, as Disneyland walkways handle thousands of people per hour, and sudden stops create dangerous bottlenecks and even collision risks. Disney's conduct policy reinforces this by asking guests to show common courtesy and refrain from disruptive behavior. Other Disney locations have taken the problem even more seriously. Tokyo Disney Resort updated its policies to give employees the right to ban guests for abusive behavior, and the resort specifically includes blocking walkways as part of what constitutes disruptive conduct. While Disneyland rarely enforces the walkway rule with actual ejections or warnings, the fact that it's officially written into park regulations shows just how serious the safety concern really is. Fact 15. You can't pose as a character, even if you look perfect. When you visit Disneyland, you might see someone dressed head to toe as Cinderella or sporting a perfect Captain Jack Sparrow costume. But there's one thing they absolutely cannot do, no matter how convincing their outfit looks. Disney has a strict rule that prohibits guests from posing for photographs with other visitors or signing autographs while dressed as a character, even if their costume is so authentic it could fool anyone. This privilege is reserved exclusively for official Disney cast members who undergo specialized training to portray characters in the parks. The reasoning behind this rule is simple but important. Disney wants to maintain complete control over the character experience to ensure that every interaction guests have with Mickey Mouse, Elsa, or any other beloved character meets the company's high standards. If random park visitors started posing as characters and interacting with children, Disney would have no way to guarantee the quality or appropriateness of those interactions. A child meeting what they believe is the real Princess Jasmine should be meeting a trained Disney employee, not just someone who happens to own a really good costume. This rule appears in Disney's official park regulations, which state that guests are prohibited from engaging with other guests or impeding operations while posing as or portraying any character in costume. Cast members are specifically trained to watch for this behavior, and if they spot someone crossing the line from simply wearing a costume to actively portraying a character by posing for photos or interacting with guests in character, they will intervene. The consequences can range from a simple warning to being asked to leave the park, depending on the severity of the situation. So while Disney encourages guests to show their love for characters through a practice called Disney bounding, where people wear everyday clothes inspired by character color schemes and styles, actually pretending to be that character is where the magic stops and the rules kick in.